Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. And in this video, we're going to be looking at the third book in Tamora Pierce's Circle of Magic Quartet. So this is Daja's book. So if you haven't seen my previous two videos, check them out because otherwise this isn't going to make much sense. So in this story, the four friends and their teachers, along with the Duke of Emmeline, which is Sandri's uncle or great uncle, have gone up to inspect an area that's been having issues with wildfires. So they go up there, and now their magic, because Sandri spun it together, is kind of bleeding out to each other. So they're getting each other's magic. And they first really see this when Briar accidentally has lightning comes out of his hands when he's investigating a saffron crocus. Luckily, it was nearly dead. And he creates glass because he melts sand, which starts kind of become, luckily it's nearly dead. He freaks out. It's like, I don't emit lightning. That's Tress. And I'm a plant mage. I can't be emitting lightning. This is not a good thing. So that's kind of how it starts. And Daja is kind of uneased about this. It's like she's never really been that far from the sea before, because her family were blue traders, or basically she spent her life on the ocean. So they go up there, they go to the castle, and I love the fact that the author does this. She has maps. I love the maps. So they're up here at Gold Ridge Castle. So they go up there, and essentially she, at one point, Tress and Daja decide to, basically they stay behind to, basically Daja is creating nails because it's practice, and that's what her teacher put her to do. And Tress is hanging out with her because they didn't want to go traveling to look at, I can't remember what exactly they were traveling to look at, but Sandri and Briar decided to go up with their teachers, and Tress and Daja stayed behind. So Tress is reading and helping Daja with air through at the smith's place, at the smithery, with the fire, because she's creating nails, because that's what Frostbite told her to do, because it's practice. Turns out he can actually see her magic in it, so he's looking at how her control is going on. So she's there, and she's not paying attention, because this is kind of a common thing to do, and Tress isn't entirely paying attention either, because she's reading. And all of a sudden, the iron comes alive and starts to grow and kind of creates a plant. So Daja calls for Tress. She's like, what is going on? She makes the fire hotter. She's like, no, get in here. And so she comes in, and Daja's trapped in a iron vine. And Tress comes to try and help. They're trying to get loose of this slightly thing, and then this trader shows up who has one leg. Yes, that's important. And she at first tries to address Daja because she thinks she's the smith. Then she sees Daja's staff, which identifies her as a Tengashi. I may be mispronouncing that, but that basically means she's bad luck and she's an outcast. So to traders, she doesn't exist. So she pretty much denies the fact that Daja's there. So Tress has to talk to her, and Tress is pissed off because she doesn't understand this culture, and she thinks it's very, very stupid. And then, not sure whether this is before or happened after the vine thing, but essentially Tress has to talk to this person and tells her that the smith isn't here. He'd gone with the head of the castle, this lady something. What is her name? I haven't read this book in a while. Lady something. It's Lady something. I don't know if the name is actually all that important, but basically it's the lady of the castle. And her mage. She has a academic mage who's been suppressing fires entirely for years on end. Not a good thing. But the smith doesn't care. The trader woman basically has to talk to Tress. I don't know if she leaves, but then the vine things happen. The vine, basically the iron has come to life. And she sees this and it's like, oh, this is going to make money. Now she's This trader woman is at the bottom of her basically ranking of the society. So let's see. What is her name? I can bring her up. I did find the spot. Yeah, they have to summon the Smith. And let's see. I can find where on earth this woman's name is. There it is. Let's see. Where on earth? I cannot pronounce what she is, but Polyam. That's the best pronunciation for this trader. Because she doesn't have a leg, she does the purchasing and kind of the lowly work of her trader group. So she's there basically to get work done from the Smith. And she sees this thing and she realizes this magical vine that apparently also grows. They've gotten the children loose. They got their teachers there and they released the children from the growing vine. It's like, this can earn us a lot of money. So they want to purchase it. Problem is, it's Daja's creation. So, and with the help of her friends, Daja pretty much says, if you want to buy this, you have to barter with me. I have to exist in order to do it. So later the woman comes back completely decked in bright yellow, which is, and she's like, I had to go through a massive bunch of rituals. I'm covered in yellow paint in order for me to deal with you. Basically, it's to prevent the bad luck from sticking to her. Why she deals with Daja, who's, again, bad luck, despite, being an 11-year-old child who was part of a shipwreck. But yeah, that's their culture. So that's part of what's going on. So you have this trading going back and forth, and Daja's friends, particularly Sandri, who understands, and Briar, who understands this culture, backing their friend up. It's like, no, you need to make her jump through the hoops just like anybody else. You know what's not needs to be done, the gifts and everything, and how proper bartering happens. And yeah, so they back their friend up, saying, it's like, no, you need to stand up for yourself, and almost try to work to get her pride back, because it had been very much taken away from her when she became an outcast and basically became banished from her people. And that's part of her story. The other things that are going on is, remember, these are 11-year-old kids who have a great deal of power. They get caught eavesdropping on a conversation between Rose Thorn and the fire person, whose name I can't remember. And they get caught and they get in trouble. It's like, you're using magic basically willfully and inappropriately. So they're told, like, you cannot use your magic again without being observed by an adult, one of your teachers, because they're using it like a toy, because they're 11-year-old kids. Despite the fact that Briar was a street rat and Sandri, and they've kind of been in adult roles, again, this is like the Middle Ages, they're still kind of acting like young kids with a very, very powerful toy. So they're being told this. So they're in, I think in a courtyard, and they're working their magic. And Sandri and Daja's kind of working with a portable forge, because she can't work in the regular forge, because, she's Tengashi, so the Smith is dealing with the regular stuff that the trader groups needs to, like horseshoes and things. And yeah, he's scared. She kind of scared him. It's like, get her out of my forge. She's weird. And so she's working on this portable forge and decides to mess around with fire. Around the same time, this academic mage walks in. He sees her create some very interesting what would normally be a magical drawing in fire. And he freaks out. And he's like, this is not possible. How can this be doing? These children need to be taught and trained, and their magic needs to be controlled. And Lark, who's the one who's there with them, and it's like, we don't believe that would be a good thing for these specific children. And he just completely freaks out, and I think he faints because he has like you realize how you're not supposed to be able to weave this in fire. It's just not. And it's far too powerful, and you have no wards and no anything. How are you not controlling things? And he very much freaks out. And then he wanders off. It's like, you're insane. And these children are crazy. And he goes wandering off, and he's very, very upset. And the children are slightly confused. It's like, what? They don't fully comprehend how powerful they are. And he reveals pretty much that Lark and the Rosethorn, along with Frostpine, though Daja already knew just how powerful they are, not to mention Nikolai and Goldeneye. It's like, you have 4 of the most powerful teachers known to man. How did you not know this? Lark pretty much tells him to bugger off. It's like, they don't know because we didn't bother to tell them, and it wasn't important. We are the best teachers for their magic. That's all that mattered. Now, again, Daja kind of already knew, but again, she doesn't care. This is her teacher. He's teaching her things. She's been pretty much absorbed with learning, working with metals because it calls to her. And this is where her magic is. And I think Tress kind of understands just how powerful Nico is. But again, it doesn't matter to them because these are the best teachers for them. They've bonded with them by this time. But again, he freaks out and runs away because this is scary and it's different. And how dare they not follow the rules of his fancy university? And Nico makes those comments. Both him and Rosethorn do not look highly upon university mages, and essentially Nico talks about them learning to chase their tails and chase their tails and chase their tails. And yes, I think that's the terminology used. So that's the other thing that's going on. This guy is very, very arrogant, and he's trying to show off. And the mages that are our main characters' teachers are like, what are you doing? I mean, they know they have a lot of power, but they do what they need to do. They don't show off. So they are secure in what they are. And that's what they're trying to teach their kids. The other thing that starts going on is, again, their magic. Sandra wove it together. So things are getting out of hand. So her and Lark create a portable loom, and she's going to essentially weave a map of their magic. So she gives them thread to get used to them, and then essentially takes their magic and weaves it. Now, this upsets Frostpine. You get a little bit about his backstory, how when he was born, he had a lot of magic. He did not know this. It was taken by it was sold by his parents to the local shaman. And when he was a teenager, the shaman died. And all his magic that had been being taken over the years came slamming back. And he had been working in the local forge, and his tools melted when he touched them because his magic was crazy. He was in pain for days. And when he told his family, I was like, how could you do this? You sold this thing that you didn't understand at all. This guy took it. He didn't know what the heck it was. He just knew it was magic and wanted his power. And his family didn't care. I think he says he's still in touch with one of his sisters. And he left because he needed to find training because his magic was powerful and it was crazy. And he was a teenager when he suddenly got it flying back. So the fact that Daja willingly gives up her magic to Sandri freaks him out. And he has a fit, and she has to come and talk to him. And it's like she trusts her friend. And so Sandri ends up weaving everything together, and then they realize it's a massive, massive mess. And she decides, like, we can't untangle this. So she weaves basically borders around them. So their magic, while still blended, is no longer bleeding into each other. And then the kids take their magic back. So they kind of learn that. So they all have bits and pieces of things together. And you kind of get into Sandri's mind of how she feels about her different friends and how they feel to her. And yes, it's all positive things. She's very close to these people. So, and how she doesn't quite fit in with nobility. She's not allowed to sit with her friends because she's of the upper class. And the head of the castle kind of says, like, you shouldn't be weaving. And she's like, my teacher thinks this is the best use of my power. And the woman's like, you should probably go off to the university where our esteemed mage is learning. And she's like, yeah, no. I'm perfectly happy where I'm at. So she does not quite fit with the social graces of her class, so to speak. And again, you have this traitor thing going on. And that's kind of the core part of this story, because it's Daja's story in learning and taking her pride back and taking her confidence back in who she is. So what ends up happening is this fire mage, who's been trying to suppress power like crazy, overtaxes himself. Eventually he tries to suppress a massive wildfire that's built up underneath, because he hasn't allowed fires to happen in so long. There's undergrowth, so people are familiar with fire. If you don't let little fires happen to clear off the ground cover, they can start under that and build, and that's what happens. And he tries to control it. It's already reaching the top of the trees, and he kills himself. He overstretches himself, and he burns himself out and dies. And during when this happens, Daja, they finish their bargaining, is escorting and having a little bit more conversations with the Polyum, whom she had traded with, and she's escorting them out. And then this fire happens all around them. And with the help of her friends, they're able, I think they find a glacier underneath, and they're able to get this water, and they're able to stop the fire. And she saves this traitor group's life. She saves the entire caravan. And what this does is, so they go back, she's holding her staff at this time. So two things happen. One, the group, basically she's no longer bad luck. She's no longer Tengashi. And they ask her to join them. The other strange thing that happens, and this is kind of interesting, she's holding her staff and it has a metal cap on it. And because of the heat and her magic, it bonds to her hand. So she now is growing metal skin. And what they do, and she talks to her teachers about this, in order to thank this woman, who's this traitor who gave her this opportunity, they create an artificial leg for her using a skin that's essentially flaking off her hand. And so they allow this woman essentially to reclaim her normal place, because she had been a horseback rider. She'd been the best rider in their caravan until she lost her leg in an accident. And so they give her this artificial leg with this metal skin, this magical thing. And they're able to, with their magics, create this thing as a gift to her. And this woman's like, she's offered a place in their caravan, but she would have to give up her friends, and she would have to give up smithing. And this is the major decision in her life. It's like, do you go back to the world that you know, or do you stay with this new one? And she chooses to stay with her friends and to stay with Frostpine. She basically says, I've been in this too long, and I've bonded too much, and she can't go back. But she's still no longer Tengashi. She's no longer an outcast. She has a new staff, which tells her story now, because that's the purpose of their staffs. It tells their family story and who they are. So, and she becomes an honorary person as part of this group, though she does not obviously go back with them. And that's the basis of this story. You learn a little bit more about the traitor community, and Daja gets her confidence back and learns to accept who she is now and her place as a mage and as a smith in her world. So that's the main core of this story. And again, you learn a little bit more about Sandri and Frostpine, and you get some background, and you find a little bit more about the university mages and how they're kind of arrogant. You hear about, if you remember the second review of Tress's book, you learn a little bit more about that because of Tress's cousin, who ends up being an idiot. So, but that's this book. If you like this review, there is one more book in this series, which is Briar's book, and I will cover that next week. So if you like this review, I have a bunch of other children's book reviews, some family film reviews, some secular, as in non-religious homeschooling videos, some kids travel stuff going on, a lot more book reviews. I have Harry Potter going on right now, both the books and the films. I have some fun kind of family films going on this month as well to counteract Harry Potter. I have tons of stuff coming in October because Halloween is my favorite time. and still finishing up that Harry Potter, because Harry Potter, it's not going away. So, and then I have some other stuff going on in November. I will do the second part of this series, which is the Circle Opens Quartet. In that series, I haven't decided whether I'm going to cover The Will of the Empress, which is part of her semi-series of the Circle Reforged. That book itself was very much pushed by the fans to bring her characters back together. But I haven't quite decided if I'm going to cover that quite yet. But I'm also covering Native American stuff in that month as well. And it's hopefully I'm looking into covering a few films. So just besides some of the other stuff, just to give it a little bit more fun in that month, besides some of the heavy Native American stuff. But you can check that out. I do fun Christmas stuff in December, both book reviews and some great kids film reviews, mostly adaptations in December. And then I have a bunch of more stuff planned. So if you like my reviews, like and subscribe. I have a ton of stuff coming up. Thank you.